Watch this calmly. Don't rush. Don't put this video on in the background while you do something else. Because what I'm about to say doesn't work if you only hear half of it. I'm going to ask you a question that seems simple, but it isn't. How many times have you been surrounded by people and still felt completely alone? Not just alone as in being without company. I'm talking about that strange, uncomfortable, silent loneliness. The kind where you're physically present, but mentally somewhere else. As if your mind were too big for the room you're in. And the worst part is, you don't know how to explain it without sounding arrogant, weird, or dramatic. So you stay quiet, you smile, you nod, you keep playing along. But inside, something doesn't fit, something that doesn't switch off. And over time you realize it isn't sadness, it isn't shyness, it isn't a lack of social skills, it's lucidity. It's noticing that many conversations aren't meant to understand, but to fill the silence. That many relationships aren't looking for connection, but validation. That many smiles don't express joy, but social survival. And once you see it, you can't stop seeing it. You start noticing the patterns, the repeated phrases, the same topics, the same jokes, the same complaints, the same goals, the same aspirations copied from other people. And your mind, without asking for permission, starts to get bored. Not of people, it gets bored of the theater. Because that's what everything begins to look like. A stage. A place where everyone plays a role. The funny one, the successful one, the strong one, the interesting one, the busy one, the one who's always fine. And you, who used to perform without thinking, one day catch yourself watching from the outside, as if something inside you had come loose. And that's where the conflict begins. Because socially, you were taught that being alone is a problem. That if you don't fit in, something is wrong with you. That if you don't have plans, you're wasting your life. That if you don't take part, you're falling behind. But psychologically, the opposite starts to happen. You begin to feel that what exhausts you isn't loneliness. It's constant adaptation. Having to tone down what you think, having to soften what you feel, having to fake interest, having to laugh when it isn't funny, having to listen to conversations that give you nothing and still take part as if they did. And there comes a point where your mind says, enough. Not like a shout, not like a visible rebellion, like a silent retreat. You stop talking so much. You stop looking for plans. You stop explaining what you think. You stop arguing. You stop trying to convince, not because you think you're better, but because you get tired. Because you start noticing something uncomfortable. Many people don't want depth. They want distraction. They don't want truth. They want comfort. They don't want to think. They want to feel accompanied. And you, without realizing it, can't offer that anymore. Your mind moves slower, deeper, heavier, more uncomfortable, and that begins to isolate you. Not because of external rejection, but because of internal incompatibility. Here's one of the hardest ideas to accept. Some people don't isolate because they're broken. They isolate because they see too much. They see the dynamics. They see the intentions. They see the contradictions. They see the power games. They see the need for approval. They see fear disguised as opinion. And that hurts. Because thinking too much hurts. It doesn't hurt like a physical wound. It hurts like constant tension. Like a lucidity that doesn't switch off even when you try to distract yourself. You start noticing you can't enjoy certain things the same way anymore. That some jokes feel empty. That some goals feel artificial. That some conflicts feel absurd. And not because you're special, but because your mind has started asking a question that almost nobody wants to ask. Does this truly make sense? Or are we just repeating what we're supposed to repeat? In psychology, one thing is very clear. Human beings need to belong. It's a basic need. Our brains are designed to seek a group, approval, validation. For thousands of years, being left out of the group meant death. So the nervous system learned to do whatever it took to fit in, imitate, smile, stay quiet, adapt. Don't stand out too much. Don't make people uncomfortable. Don't question. And now, even though we no longer live in caves, the mechanism is still active. We keep seeking approval as if our lives depended on it. We keep fearing rejection as if it were a real threat. That's why most people prefer the comfort of belonging over the discomfort of truth. But some people, without quite knowing how, break that pattern. They start feeling uncomfortable with superficiality, uncomfortable with repetition, uncomfortable with the constant need to perform. And then loneliness appears, but not as punishment, as consequence, a consequence of thinking for yourself, a consequence of not needing external reflection so much, a consequence of starting to live more in your inner world than on the social stage. And here comes the most important part. There are two kinds of loneliness. One destroys you, the other transforms you. Loneliness from rejection is suffering. It's feeling not chosen, not loved, not seen. Loneliness by choice is something completely different. It's deciding to withdraw, to listen to yourself. It's leaving the noise to understand yourself. It's turning off the world to switch on consciousness. At first, it's frightening. Because when you're truly alone, without screens, without distractions, without people, without stimuli, things you've been avoiding for years start to surface. Thoughts you hadn't listened to, fears you hadn't looked at, desires you hadn't acknowledged, emptiness you'd covered up with activity. And the mind panics. Because there's no anesthetic anymore. There's no noise anymore. Just you and your consciousness. But if you don't run, if you stay there, something strange happens. Discomfort turns into clarity. Emptiness turns into space. Silence turns into depth. You start getting to know yourself without filters, without roles, without masks, without external expectations. You start realizing that many things you did weren't desire, they were pressure. That many decisions weren't yours, they were inherited. That many emotions weren't authentic, they were learned. And little by little, something reorganizes inside. Your identity stops depending so much on others. Your worth stops needing so much recognition. Your mind stops chasing so much noise. And then you understand something very few people understand. True freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's not needing to do what others expect. It's thinking without permission. It's feeling without asking for validation. It's existing without having to prove anything. That's why the true rebellion isn't shouting or arguing or convincing or exposing yourself. It's silent. It's internal. It's refusing to play the game. It's observing instead of reacting. It's choosing lucidity even if it costs you belonging. Because there's a price. And it's high. Thinking deeply isolates you. It makes you strange. It makes you hard to classify. It makes you uncomfortable for systems built on repetition, conformity, and consensus. But it also makes you whole. It makes you coherent. It makes you the owner of your mind. And in the end, maybe loneliness isn't the problem. Maybe the problem is having lived for so long surrounded by people without ever finding yourself. If you made it to the end of the video, comment, "I've arrived," and I'll personally reply. And if it resonated with you, subscribe to become a member and give it a like if you enjoyed it.